Hello, today we're learning about active and passive. What is passive? When do we use it? Well, it all depends what we are most interested in. These are the questions we should ask ourselves. What are we most interested in? What is most important? The law was passed last night. It's obvious in this sentence that lawmakers passed the law. However, it's not really important. The important thing here is that the law was passed. People will be fined for leaving their houses. What is important here is that if you leave your house, you will have to pay money. Even though we know police will be fining people, that isn't the focus of our sentence. Children are being taught online. Here again, it's not really important that teachers are teaching children online. It's far more important for us to know that children are being taught. When is passive used? Number one, when we don't know who the agent is. Let's have a look at an example. I am being watched. In this sentence, I know that I am being watched, but I don't know who is watching me. Compare this sentence, I am being watched, to an active sentence, somebody is watching me. I have to say that I am being watched is far more tense, far more dramatic. Number two, when it is obvious to the listener or reader who the agent is. The shoplifter was arrested. It's clear here that the police arrested the shoplifter, but we don't need to mention it because it's so obvious. When it is not important to know who the agent is, we have a sentence like this. Don't worry, the children will be collected on time. It really isn't important who's going to collect the children. All we really want to know about and to be sure about is that the children won't be stuck. Someone will pick them up. In number 4, we have when the agent has already been mentioned. Let's have a look at an example. The school made a decision. The party would be postponed indefinitely. In this case, the party would be postponed indefinitely. This decision was made by the school. We don't need to mention the school again. We already know that the school made this decision. In number 5, we see that when people in general are the agents, we like to use passive. What does that mean, people in general? It means everybody. Short clips can be viewed on WhatsApp. In other words, everybody can view short clips on WhatsApp. We also use passive when we want to be vague about who activated the verb. We don't want to blame anybody. For example, the fridge door was left open. We're not suggesting that you left the fridge door open. We're just saying the fridge door was left open. This is to avoid accusing anybody. Let's just have a look at the parts of an active sentence and a passive sentence. So in our first sentence is an active sentence. It has the structure of an active sentence. We start off with the subject, we. Then we go on to the verb, know. The verb tells us the tense. And finally, we have an object, the information. We know the information. Most of the sentences that we use when we're speaking are active sentences, and they have this structure, a subject, a verb, and sometimes there's an object, and sometimes there isn't. Now let's have a look at a passive sentence. In a passive sentence, we don't have a subject. We start off with an object. And then we have to be. To be is in the right tense. It tells us the tense of the sentence. In an active sentence, the verb tells us the tense, and in a passive sentence, to be tells us the tense. And finally, we have the verb. The verb always appears in the V3 form or the E form. It doesn't tell us the tense, it just tells us what verb it is. Let's just have a look at this. How common is passive? Now don't worry, we're not going to read it, but I took this article from a newspaper and I wanted to show you how common passive is. So I highlighted all the verbs in passive, and you can see that in a newspaper there are quite a lot of sentences that have passive verbs. Is being spared, is being called, is needed, can be developed, are needed, will be needed, was told, were treated, could be, cleared. Of course, there are many verbs here that are in active. It's very rare that everything will be in passive. That's all for this time, and in the next part we'll learn how to form the passive.